So I'm Rob Peters. I'm executive director of Save the Scenic Santa Ritas, and I've been working in sort of conservation policy pretty much my whole life. And sort of in my twilight years, I decided it would be a great idea to take on the most challenging job that I've ever had, which is trying to help this great band of people and others. We have some 3,000 members. Save the Scenic Santa Ritas from devastation by another foreign mining company, in this case, Hudbay. And you know, I'll put my cards on the table right in the beginning. Our organization, our position with respect to mining is that we are not against mining per se, but we are strongly against the development of this particular Copper World mining project by Hudbay in the Santa Rita Mountains, which is sort of like how you were just talking about the San Pedro corridor. It's a high center of biological diversity, and it's critical to the economy in Pima County because it's a draw for tourists, outdoor recreation. The Arizona Trail runs right through it. So it's a really important place, and our organization, which formed in 1996, has been fighting off a number of mining projects over the years. We've been successful. Right now, it's more challenging than ever because Hudbay has deep pockets. This is what we're trying to save. It's absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. We're fighting Hudbay. Just to give you an idea where it is, this is the Copper World project. Down here, the Santa Rita Mountains run like this. The Tohono O'odham name for this translates as Long Mountain because it's long. There's a lot to it. Basically, this project would devastate this whole northern end. And city of Tucson, to show you where it is, it's like 18 miles away, something like that. So this is a major recreation area for folks coming to Tucson and living in Tucson. But the area itself is, in some ways, is not dissimilar to what you have here. It's largely rural. And you're looking at the Santa Rita Experimental Range here that is dedicated to rangelands research and ecological research. But a lot of people have bought houses here because they saw it as an ideal place to either retire or to live. There's a community just north of where this is called Corona de Tucson that has a lot of people living in it that have young kids. There's a grade school. There's a secondary school. So I'm here to sort of tell you that, like, we're not against mining, period. We know that you guys, your community, will be struggling with how you feel about mining proposals in your area. And so I have a few sort of warnings for you, which boil down to don't necessarily believe the PR that the mines put out. Don't necessarily believe that they have your best interests at heart when they are donating money to the local library or supporting a football game or something like that. And particularly when they tell you that it is going to be great for your economy. In some cases, maybe that's so, but at least in the mine that we're talking about, the Copper World project, we hired an economics consulting firm which showed that the economic downside of this project would be it would dwarf the few economic benefits. So you basically have a situation here where foreign Canadian company is coming in. They're going to take our natural resources. First 4 years of the project, they're going to export every bit of it overseas, most likely to China, and create a relative handful of jobs and leave behind ecological and economic devastation. Exactly. So their game plan, they exaggerate the economic benefits and they downplay the economic harm. They downplay the health consequences, which can be severe. They take advantage of weak, and I kind of want to bold this, very weak state environmental oversight, and they make economic deals with some section of the community to turn citizens against citizens. So one thing to leave you with is you cannot assume that the state is going to be on your side. You cannot assume that the state is going to protect your health. You cannot assume that the state is going to protect your water supplies. You just can't. So claim number one, these are predominantly claims that come from HUD Bay and HUD Bay proponents. They actually say Pima County's economy is in terrible shape and the mine will be a lifesaver. Pima economy is very robust. It's weathered the last 8 recessions like a champ. But our consulting firm concluded that the mine itself will seriously damage the economy. And I know you can't read this, so I'll read it for you. They say, oh, we're going to create 430 mining jobs, which is a drop in the bucket. It's only 0.1% of Pima County total number of jobs. And there's a lot of questions about those jobs because mechanization computerization is doing away with a lot of mining jobs. You know, haul trucks are now being run by computers, et cetera. So you've got that going on. And then there's a question about how many of the jobs, these are high-tech jobs typically, how many of them are going to be given to local people. Mining's boom and bust. You guys all know this in your area, San Manuel. When copper prices drop, the mines cut back or they close. Now, HUD Bay says, oh, that's not true. That mines can't afford to cut back. They gotta keep the production going even if the copper prices drop. Well, we know from just looking around that that's not true. Our report showed that tourism, outdoor recreation will take big hits, particularly if you're looking at a sort of larger regional area. Like we've got an Australian company, South 32, is about to hammer the Patagonias, another, mega birding mecca. And so you put those together, you wipe out, 2 of the major recreation centers in Pima and Santa Cruz County, sorry, I used to live in Santa Clara County. What do you get? Housing prices will drop. Just in Corona de Tucson, the community next door that's fairly small, our experts estimated $100 million loss in housing value. Because who wants to live next to a 500-foot tall pile of toxic waste? And that's what the mine is proposing to put within 600 feet of the closest house, 1.5 miles from the grade school, 2.5 miles from the secondary school. And we're talking dust that's filled with 500 feet tall, miles long, filled with lead. It's got lead in it, it's got cadmium in it, it's got arsenic in it, and you all know lead, you all know about lead paint. Lead is bad for kids, nervous system. The mine will use 2 to 4 billion gallons of water a year. 2 billion to start out, probably something like 4 billion gallons a year. After, this is from the same aquifer that's used by ranches and towns. And y'all probably know what happens when a big user starts putting their straw on the ground and sucking out the water. You got to drill new wells if you're a rancher, for example. That's happened right in the neighborhood where I live. We don't really know. In our study, we didn't really get into the exact effects of toxic dust and polluted water for human health, but we know it's not a pretty picture. And the last bullet is a little harder to explain, but in Tucson, about a little bit less than half of all the income in Tucson is passive income. It's from retirement accounts, it's from investments. And it's brought here in large part by people who are moving here, typically retired. There's 6,000 people move to Pima County every year, and they're bringing this money with them, which is a huge economic engine. But these are folks, typically, they can go live anywhere. Their income isn't locally derived, right? So they could go live they could move to Florida, they could move to, I don't know, Costa Rica, wherever they wanted to. Traditionally, a lot of them have chosen Pima County. But again, who wants to live next to a 500-foot tall pile of toxic waste? Another dubious claim, they say that copper world is going to be essential for national energy security and the transition to green energy. But the reality is that copper is not in short supply. The U.S. Geological Survey, which has the obligation of maintaining a list of critical minerals, has refused to list copper as a critical mineral despite having been asked by Senator Sinema and others who are on the side of the copper industry. They want to, if they list it as critical, then they can get tax breaks for their mining developments. But the head of the U.S. Geological Survey a year ago turned them down, wrote a letter saying, no, there's plenty of copper, we have good sources of copper, we've got friendly trading partners that can give us copper. A third of copper use in the U.S. is recycled, so no, this isn't really so. And a lot of copper mines in the U.S. last couple of years have actually been running at below capacity. So, they could gin up their operations. Another claim is that copper will be made in Arizona copper. And they make a real big deal out of this. I already mentioned that Hudbay's own plan says that 100% of its copper will be sent overseas for the first 4 years, at least. So we're talking China for sure. They don't say that, but, well, they have said that kind of in public, but overseas. Their plan doesn't say China, but it's almost certainly going to be China because that's where most melting capacity is. They say that starting in year 5, a percentage is going to be refined in the U.S. on site, but again, they have changed their plans so dramatically every year or two that we don't really know what's going to happen. But even in that plan, they say a percentage is still going to be shipped overseas, sizable percentage. So, and remember that made in Arizona doesn't mean the profits stay in Arizona. This is a Canadian company. Profits are going to go out, our natural resources are going to go out, and we're going to be left, as you were saying, with the mess to clean up and live with. Finally, Hudbay cares about our community. They donate money to feel-good community projects like the Labor Day Rodeo and Santa Cruz County Fair. They're basically trying to buy the love and approval of the community. But if you want a little bit about, maybe what this company's really like, I can turn you on to some articles that have appeared in various press places. Guatemala. This was a mining company owned by Hudbay. His ex-security chief pleads guilty to the murder of an indigenous leader. And this leader was a main opponent to the mine there in Guatemala. So I can turn you on to some things like that. So I'm just trying to inoculate you folks against going, oh, they gave money to the local rodeo, so therefore they must be good guys. Not necessarily so. State agencies, they really dance the mining tune. I don't know if you guys have ever really looked. This is the Great Seal, and there's a happy miner with a pick and shovel. And this is sort of where the state agencies are still stuck. Went to a meeting, actually organized by Roger Featherstone, with Karen Peters, then the new head of the ADEQ. And she told us in that meeting that one of her first acts was to tell her staff, please stop referring to the mines as your customers. And ADEQ has a mission of protecting the health and the environment of the citizens in Arizona. That's their mission, protecting the health and the environment. But they bend over backwards every way they can to facilitate the production of these dangerous mines. The controls they have are typically really weak. They don't have a lot of staff capacity, so when they're doing their air permits or their water permits, they depend on information that's given to them by the mines. The mine says, here's a model, one of our consultants generated. And the staff goes, okay. And we've shown that the Arizona State Land Department bends the law to benefit mining companies. Examples of state agency bias. In 2024, we proved in court that the Arizona State Land Department had broken the open meetings law. They had not held a public hearing that they're required to by law before they approved the valuation of a right-of-way for Hudbay across state land. This was a right-of-way that Hudbay wanted to put tailing slurry pipelines where they would pump the tailings from the mine site, and so that they could dump it next to Corona Day Tucson houses and schools. So they actually broke the law, did it on the QT. We caught them. We had to ask for records. They didn't turn over the records. We got lawyers involved. They turned over the records. We saw, hey, this wasn't legal. So we sued them and we won. Yay! Yay! Now we're in court arguing that that they broke the law when they overall authorized that right of way, because they put it across the Santa Rita experimental range, which by state law can only be used for rangeland and ecological research. There's no footnote in there that says, oh yeah, also right of ways for mining company tailings pipelines. So we're in court right now. We're also appealing that ADEQ just gave an air permit, air quality permit, really air pollution permit, to Hudbay by improperly categorizing the amount of particulate air emissions that they were going to. And I have a feeling Russ might be talking about that, so I won't steer you from thunder. But this should be enough to make you see, like, if you guys are involved in trying to keep the mine and the permits honest, honorable, keep ADEQ fulfilling their mission of protecting your health and environment, you gotta stay on them, because they bend over backwards. Federal agency bias, same kind of problem. In 2022, we proved in court, we won in court, that the U.S. Forest Service had illegally given Hud Bay a permit to dump its tailings on the Forest Service land on the east side of the Santa Ritas. And so now, unfortunately, it looks like Trump and the Republicans, with a few Democrats, may be changing that so that they get that permission. After all, we have our fingers crossed. So what are you guys going to do? Like, whether you're going to be, whether right now you have a position for the mine that's proposed here or against the mine that's proposed here, my message to you should be that as a community, you need to get organized and you need to watchdog these guys, because you cannot count on the state to protect your interests, your health, your environment, or to protect your water, because the mines can essentially pump all the water they want. In our case, 4 billion gallons a year. Fortunately, people are really willing to work hard. And one of the things you need to do this is you need specialists who are able to evaluate these draft permits that ADEQ comes out with, evaluate the mining plans, and you probably need some legal experts along the line if you're going to keep them honest. And so fortunately, we found that people are willing to work for free or reduced rates. These are experts. We have some on our board, some wonderful scientists on our board that are willing to do this work. So I want to basically sound an encouraging word that you can find these people. And with our little group, which, we've got 2 staff people, me and Anna, yay, but we're the first staff people as of like 2 years ago this organization's ever had. They've done tremendous work since 1996, just people, citizens, board members, volunteering, so it can be done on a volunteer basis. Build a coalition, that's critical, and you guys all know that. Peter knows that so well. We work really closely with CBD over here, Arizona Mining Reform Coalition, that's Roger, tribes. We work all the time with Tohono O'odham Nation and Pascua Yaqui. Private companies like Farmers Investment Company is actually critical to our struggle. And there are a lot of neighborhood groups like Corona de Tucson and other communities right near the mine site that we work really closely and we try our best to support. So, okay.